What's up, everybody? Welcome to the RotoWire Soccer Podcast. My name's Ryan. I'll be hosting. Unfortunately, Jack and Adam couldn't be bothered for the first slate of the season, but the good news is we're hanging with Mr. Cooper today, the OG himself, back from crushing the poker tables, taking a break to help us break down the first slate of the season. How's it going, Jordan? How's your summer been?
Good. I wouldn't miss the first slate. I mean, with me, the way that I play DFS, the first slate of the season is like 2 days before. I'm like, who's on what team now? Like, I don't pay much attention during the summer. I look at some transfers. I look at some of the friendlies. But the most important thing that I look at, I don't need to do much because I go to the RotoWire cheat sheet with my RotoWire subscription, rotowire.com/soccer trial. And all the info is kind of there for me, and a lot of stuff really hasn't changed since last season. So for the most part, I think things, at least for this slate, have mostly remained the same. But we'll see. I think we have some standout games, some not so standout games. A 4-game slate. I think there's multiple ways to go in cash. I don't think there's like a clear construction. So I'm always interested in talking cash versus GPP, but yeah, back in the soccer DFS streets. Got to wake up early on Saturday mornings again.
Yeah, exciting. I think most people are probably, in the same boat as you, just coming back recently, not sure about some of the transfers or what's going on. But yeah, we'll break it down. Not too much has changed. A few things on this slate. Big news with lineups. I would say the first thing is going to be Trippier. It seems like he's legitimately 50-50 whether he starts or not. And obviously that would change the slate quite a bit because he's 5,900 in a great matchup, underpriced. You'd certainly want Trippier in cash. You'd probably want him in tournaments. So that's a big piece of news. But other than that, yeah, Jordan, break down the games for us.
Okay, well, get ready for a hot cash take at some point. You'll see it you'll see
Can't
how my
wait.
approach may have changed in cash games when you hear the cash take that I have. Okay, so we got obviously two high scoring teams on the slate: Arsenal and Newcastle. They both have implied goal totals over 2. Right, Arsenal 2.47, Newcastle 2.34. Arsenal facing Wolves, who are not good, especially if Pedro Neto is gone. Newcastle recently promoted Southampton, but Southampton, they actually have a Premier League caliber squad, so maybe they will punch above their weight a little bit more this season. And then we got Nottingham Forest versus Bournemouth and Everton versus Brighton. And these are lower-ish scoring games. I'm not exactly sure if they may, other than Arsenal and Newcastle, maybe any clean sheets. But Everton, Everton's going to be one of those teams, Ryan, where you're going to like the floors, but you're going to question where the ceiling comes from, because I think Everton's going to struggle to score goals this season. And we may get stuck, playing Everton guys in cash and going, well, I guess 8.5 points is okay. And then being 4 points below the cash line in double ups and going, well, maybe Everton isn't the best shot with the floor ceiling combination. But it's kind of clear on the slate that, at least from a GPP perspective, that we expect Arsenal and Newcastle to score goals.
Yeah, pretty high totals for both Arsenal and Newcastle. Really good home spots for both of them. You figure one of those teams probably scores 3 or 4. Yeah, really good point about Everton. I agree. We could see them in this kind of spot like many times where they have the lowest total and the players in that game, will be priced okay and look okay. So there'll be some tough decisions. So I agree that they're probably going to struggle to score goals. And, with Sean Dyche, they're probably looking for 1-0 wins a lot of the time. But yeah, so some of the floors look decent, and, having the lowest total, I think, gets the players priced down a little bit. So some Brighton players look good too. Yeah, so let's start with cash games.
And just because, and I just want to highlight for people that may have not listened to the podcast, they're coming new to Premier League, like cash games versus GPP in soccer is not that dramatically different. Like the flagship GPP is like 2,500 entries at $25 or whatever the hell it is. It's not that large of a GPP where it's like, well, these are cash game plays and then you can't play them in GPP. Just that when we mention cash games, double ups, head to heads, triple ups, stuff like that, you're prioritizing more like medians than ceilings, more so. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you're probably not playing, 4 goal dependent players that score like 3 points or like 20 in your cash game lineup. You could do 1, maybe 2, depending on your construction. But these are guys that are much more likely to score around their median in their range of outcomes. And that's kind of what you're trying to do in double ups. You're only trying to beat, 55% of the field, or in a head to head, just, one lineup. So don't necessarily think that I wouldn't necessarily play like a really chalky cash game lineup in the large field GPP, but your GPP lineups a lot of times will have, out of the 8 slots in your lineup, you could have 4 or 5 guys from your cash game lineup in your GPP lineup, and that's perfectly fine in soccer.
Yeah, really good point. I think, especially because people have sort of changed the way they play cash at least a little bit, to where you're playing with a little bit more upside. And even in like the higher stakes stuff, say maybe 50 person fields or around there, we saw quite often last season, there's a group of guys who just put their cash lineup in that tournament every week, and they hit enough first places last season where you can, it's clearly viable in small field. And so, yeah, I don't think cash is on certain slates. It won't be too much different than tournaments. Yeah, it's good to know that, different than other DFS sports, I guess.
That being said, $11,000 Saka, is that cash / GPP? I don't think this is like a hot take or anything. Like, this is not even close to what I'm going to say in maybe a couple of minutes. I don't think you have to play Saka in cash at 11,000, but I will. But I mean, I don't think you have to. But he is the highest. He's easily the highest projected player on the slate, with the share of set pieces, 90 minutes, the fulcrum of the Arsenal attack in the front line, maybe penalties. I mean, they kind of go around kind of between him and maybe Odegaard, or maybe Havertz now, or Martinelli could take one. But I mean, as far as reliability, like Arsenal with that high of implied total, minus 850 favorites, you could fit Saka in your lineup. So I'm probably doing that.
Yeah, like you said, you don't have to, but I don't really know what you do if you don't. Like if Trippier doesn't start, then Anthony Gordon's, arguably a similar play to Saka, a little bit cheaper and splitting set pieces, you would think. So I think he'd certainly be in consideration. You can probably fit both of them though, too, to be honest, if Trippier didn't start.
I'm not sure if that's the best construction. The question is that whether or not that's the best construction to play 11K Saka and 10-4 Gordon. You can. There are some midfielders, and there's a cheap defender. You could always play a center back, right? I think there are defenders worth playing on this slate. I don't think goalkeeper may matter. You're paying all the way up or all the way down at goalkeeper, but there is definitely a way to play Saka, Gordon, and to be fair, and this goes towards my direction of how I'm playing a little bit more toward cash this year. I don't think Isak is like an awful cash play. Like, if Trippier's out, I'd rather play Gordon. But if Trippier's in, like, Gordon is okay at 10-4. But at that point, I'd almost rather play Isak with the best goal scoring odds on the entire slate at minus 155. And I'm probably not doing it, but I don't think you're crazy for playing Isak in cash even at 9,900, because I mean he has like goal scoring odds. Would you play Haaland for Man City when they're, I mean, like if he was a minus 150? And the answer is probably yes also. So you have to put him in that bucket as well.
Yeah, we're in agreement. I think if Trippier starts, for sure, like Isak seems like a better play than Gordon, really in all formats. Just his goal scoring odds are much higher. And yeah, it's a good comparison with Haaland. We play him with these goal scoring odds. And you might be able to afford it. I think there's some value at defense, maybe at midfield too. Yeah, I guess like you said, you don't need to. I mean, but I just there's some guys in the 8K range, I guess, that are playable too.
I think that's the best word for them, playable. But I have concerns about both of them. I think there's two, and I think we think very easily, right? We're very similar. I think the two in the 8K range. One is not typically someone that you think of as a cash game play, but I still think is, and one that is like the quintessential cash game play that may not have the ceiling that you may like. And I think the first one is Pedro, and the second one is McNeil. Pedro with penalties, and he's active. I mean, like, no set pieces, but it's kind of like, it's kind of like playing Michael Olise, even though obviously he's not in the league anymore. Like, would you play him without or Zaha? Like that type of player, like someone that doesn't have set pieces, but boy, when a Grealish, that type of guy, like he draws fouls, he shoots the ball, he assists shots, he does a lot of stuff. And then McNeil is the opposite of that, of like, I'm going to go down the wing and I'm going to cross the ball a bunch. I don't know that I know maybe you're not thinking in this. I know we've talked about Everton not being like a high ceiling team, but like depending on the Everton lineup, like without like Garner, if you told me McNeil had a monopoly of set pieces, it's hard to not play him at 8,200 when Sean Dyche is the manager. I mean, like this is this is McNeil on Burnley, right? I mean, it's like it's the same setup with a monopoly of set pieces. Even if they don't score any goals, McNeil could hit 15, 18 points without any being on the score sheet at all, just in a 0-0 game. But it's obvious that, his goal scoring odds are like plus 400, plus 450. Everton probably is not going to score many goals, but I feel safer with McNeil than Pedro, but I'm not even sure if I play either of these two players.
Yeah, I think you broke it down well. I'm not sure if I play either of them. You'd lean towards McNeil, right? Especially like you said, if he has a monopoly of sets.
Well, who would take sets from? Okay, so I know I listened to all your DFS previews with Jack.
Yeah.
If Garner isn't in, I know they have what's his name,
Lindstrom.
Right. If he doesn't play, how about Ashley? You got Ashley Young there, but Ashley Young would take the same side as McNeil, I would assume. Like, who's there that would take you don't see those guys in the lineup. I mean, how is McNeil not on every set piece?
Yeah, so it seems like if this is the lineup that we have here, you'd think McNeil takes most of them for sure. Maybe Idrissa Gueye has taken some in the past, and I think he did also in the preseason. You could see him taking a couple right-footed corners. I mean, he did last year too when Garner wasn't in. But yeah, most of the sets for McNeil. I mean, it's a pick'em matchup. I mean, the Brighton team, we see their lineup up there. So they've lost Pascal Gross, which obviously changes things for Brighton. He went to Dortmund. So he was kind of the focal point of everything, taking most of the sets, controlling the play, sort of playing all over the field at times. So it's a different Brighton team. They don't have De Zerbi anymore either. There's definitely some unknown there. Everton are at home. So, yeah, it makes me lean towards McNeil for cash games. It just seems safer. João Pedro, is going to be the same as last year? Are Brighton going to play the same? They have a new manager, so probably not. But, yeah, 90 minutes of Pedro still looks pretty good. We saw last year he has one of the highest floors in the league. If you eliminate set pieces, takes penalties. I mean, we play these types of guys, right? I mean, we play Vinny Jr. Obviously, he's not Vinny Jr., but, the types of guys that do everything except set pieces. So I think it's fine, but probably more of a tournament play. McNeil, I think, will be more popular. Yeah, so probably McNeil in cash for me and Pedro in tournaments.
I mean, outside of that, I mean, really, you're either in this range or you're going down. Like, I don't think there's really much in the middle. Like, I'm not playing Elanga at 6,600 or, Calvert-Lewin or whoever it starts up top for Everton or anything. And then we get to my hot take of the day.
Okay.
I think Chris Wood at 5,800 is a cash play.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. We've come a long way. We've come a long way with Jordan playing Chris Wood over. Well, first of all, let's talk about Forest then, because you mentioned Elanga too. They went weird with set pieces. Gibbs White sort of stopped taking for the most part. He showed up sometimes towards the end of the season and took some, but during the preseason, Elliot Anderson was taking over him. Now, it doesn't seem like he's going to start, but I mean, they paid like $45 million for him, so he's going to be a main player for them pretty soon. But during the preseason, I think Elanga was taking over Gibbs White also. So he actually might be in the conversation. If
he could be. I mean, it's so questionable. I mean, you could see Nico Williams take one. You could see Danilo take. Like, am I rushing to play Nottingham Forest's share of set pieces? No. Right? That's how if you told me there was a clear person, sure. If you told me Elanga was on all of them, sure. I'm playing Elanga in cash. Yeah, no problem. Elanga probably also doesn't play 90. It's another problem. If you told me Danilo, I mean, we get to midfield. He's 4K. If he was taking all of them, yeah, sure. Plug him right in as my cheap midfield play. The case for Chris Wood. He's probably playing 85 plus minutes, right? For Forest. Probably.
I worry a little about the minutes. I mean, if Iwani is on the bench, Taiwo, I mean, they're essentially the same player. So I don't know. I think 70 minutes is on the table, depending on the bench.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, his goal scoring odds are plus 115. It's the second best on the entire slate. He's 5,800. If you see, other than the worst of matchups, he gets 2 shots on goal. I mean, 5 points. I mean, he doesn't score or anything. He gets 5 points. He's 5,800. I don't mind. I don't mind 5 points at 5,800. I mean, I'd rather have more, but he has upside to score 20 plus. I'm comparing him. It's not a forward thing. Like, it's not a thing of like, well, do I play, Saka, McNeil, Gordon, Isaac, Pedro, whatever. It's more of like, do I play him over like a Jack Harrison or a Miedema or a Lewis Cook, like that 5K midfield range? I'm feeling that 5K midfield range may be a trap. Like you're paying for a floor that's not much better than a $3,500 midfielder and a ceiling that is not that good, that I'd almost rather play Wood over some of them, depending on the construction. So it's not I'm going to dinky do and play a Wood McNeil type of lineup without Saka, or a Wood Saka lineup and then, not play, any, like, if I'm playing Wood, Saka, I'm probably playing Odegaard in that lineup, like something like that, more than anything. So I'm not saying that like Wood is, you're making out like Wood, well, first pick, lock him in, first guy in type of thing. It's just, in comparison, I think his ceiling is worth, with his goal scoring odds, is worth considering, at least over those midfielders. And in the recent state of cash games in soccer, like this 2017 style of just lock in defensive midfield set piece taker types and whatever, it's like you just get burned too much when ceiling players score with these shots assisted and teams that are running over another team. That I really don't want to. I don't want to play a Danilo, Lewis, Cook, McNeil lineup. There's not enough dead money in soccer anymore that you could just auto profit. You go back 7 years, that was auto profit. You play low stakes cash games, you auto profit playing like that. And I'm not necessarily sure that that's the way to go. So that's the case for Chris Wood, because at that price, he is, name another player in that range that's really like 2 goals. I don't want to play Welbeck over him, right? Because Welbeck is probably in a similar spot, but Welbeck typically doesn't play. He'll come out at some point, and I don't trust Brighton's offense without Gross, right? Kluivert never plays 90. And do I want to play Bournemouth? Probably not, especially if Solanke's not in, because then you'll have like Jebison or someone like that, and he has like, who knows what happens there. And then you have like the Southampton guys. Like, do you want to play Adam Armstrong or a Dozy, or like, these guys have goal scoring odds of like plus 400. Like, yeah, maybe they have one extra floor point, but I don't know. I just see that if I'm going to play a cheap forward, I think it's going to be Chris Wood.
Yeah, I mean, all fair points. I'll try to push back and say that I don't really, like I said at the start, I don't really project him for more minutes than Welbeck or Kluivert even. Speaking of Kluivert, Dominic Solanke's not there anymore, and Kluivert took the first pen with Solanke not there. So 5,500, he may have pens. The other thing I would say is, I mean, if we get this for the Forest lineup, and just you assume they have the same minutes projections, but it wouldn't even surprise me if Elanga played longer. But I mean, for $800 more, I would take a chance at half the sets. I mean, over a guy like Chris Wood. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I told you it was a hot take.
It's a hot take.
If Adam was here, he'd be backing me up. If Adam was here, which truthfully is not a good sign, right? It's typically is not a good sign. If Adam's like, oh yeah, Chris Wood, lock him in.
Yeah, I'm just not sure he's better than these other guys that for the same price. I mean, even like, also here's the other thing is, who am I spending up for at midfield? Why do I need the salary? Why do I need to save salary with Chris Wood? The other thing is, he's the same price as.
I view Chris Wood as more of a lineup if Trippier plays.
Well, yeah, you would have to play Trippier and Barco in a Chris Wood lineup. Right. But the other thing, he's the same price as Marcus Tavernier.
That guy, come on, really?
Imagine if we
talk about range of outcomes, Ryan. You can't tell me that Marcus Tavernier is a safer play than Chris Wood. He plays 70 minutes, and who knows what he does.
Well, Chris Wood clearly has a lower floor.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, Wood's the only guy that's going to finish with 2 points sometimes.
Tavernier scores a goal, and sometimes he does the Cavani. I mean, come on.
I don't know. I mean, there's a path for some Tavernier sets too. I mean, I don't know if I just don't know. I don't know if he's cheap enough. If I was more comfortable of the minutes, like if we needed to spend up at midfield, I just don't know. I mean, I would rather play Danilo, I think.
Okay. I'm making the
But
case.
I hear you. I mean, Chris Wood, usually I'm on the side of the center forward. I mean, they come with the ability to bail out your whole lineup. So
Right.
it
Well, that's
seems
what
fine.
I'm looking for. And I
I'm
mean,
not like
this is one of the rare times, Ryan. I mean, most of the time, people that listen last year and the years before that, we both agree with each other too much. Right? It's Adam with the bizarro center
right.
back takes, and then me and Ryan, me and you, we say the same thing, and oh yeah, you made the case. Oh, okay, you repeated what I just said, and now I'm starting out week 1 with Chris Wood and Cash.
Yeah, I like it. That's good.
He's obviously a GPP play. He's obvious. I mean, to get a goal scorer with plus 115 odds at that price, I mean, he's easily GPP. He's a top GPP play.
Yeah, I agree. The other forward that I will mention is because Frank brings up Miedema, who's just midfield eligible, but good price. But Minta, Yankubu Minta is forward eligible, and he took some sets in preseason as well. They just got him back from Feyenoord, I believe, where he had a good season last year. They signed him from Newcastle, I think, actually. He was on loan from Newcastle at Feyenoord, I think. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, he's a good player. Young, exciting, like good prospect who's got upside. So I think that's like a similar play. You're really worried about minutes there, though, for those Brighton guys. But at least it's a tournament consideration. I mean, if that's the Brighton lineup that we have up there, you'd expect really Barco and Mitch are the only guys in that lineup who would take sets. I mean, unless like, I don't know, maybe João Pedro. They just don't have like right-footed set piece takers in that lineup.
Right.
So
I'm just not big on the Brighton attack in this. I think this is going to be a very, very sloggy type of game. I don't mind playing Pedro. I mean, I don't mind playing Barco at his price, obviously, as a wing back. But I don't want to invest that much. I think Miedema, when we talk about GPP, is going to be, I think, maybe a little bit over-owned. He's coming back. I mean, there's no guarantee that Miedema. I mean, we're getting into midfield now, so why don't we talk about midfield?
Yeah,
there's a lot of these players at like 5K, that range. So, and we'll talk about maybe one expensive player. Miedema hasn't played a regular season game since February, right? I mean, there's no guarantee that he plays 90 minutes. Now, I think he's fully fit. So I mean, I don't think it's the type of thing where it's like, oh, we're gonna. I mean, he's fine. But I mean, we were playing Miedema at like 8,500 at times because I view him as a similar type of player as like he's Pedro without penalties or whatever. Just like very active on the ball, right, and does a lot of stuff and. I mean, his floor is good. I just question the ceiling of this entire game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he's kind of like, Brighton's version of Jeremy Doku. I mean, we saw him last year just terrorize teams. And like you said, we love to play Miedema even when he was up to 8K. But yeah, I'm worried too. You wouldn't be surprised at all to see 45 minutes in a sub, but that could be for more players than you think on this opening slate. We might see some weird subs. Starting at the top of midfield, we got Odegaard at 8,800. You could get there if you didn't play a Newcastle. You can get there.
You can get there, and I think Odegaard. I mean, you have Odegaard and you have Declan Rice at 7,300, and I don't know about you. If you told me Declan Rice has half the set pieces, I can't pay 7,300 for Declan Rice. Odegaard plays 90. He may have penalties. He does get forward. He gets stats across the entire board. In a matchup, Arsenal is probably going to run over Wolves. I would play the Arsenal players as far as cash viability. To me, is Saka 1. I mean, from the attacking standpoint, Saka 1, Odegaard 2, Martinelli 3, Rice 4, Havertz 5. Something like
Yeah.
that. Some around there.
I
But I mean, the only ones I'm really comfortable with are Saka. I'm very confident and comfortable with Saka. And then next, right underneath that would be Odegaard. And then there's like a gap. And then it's like Martinelli, Rice. Like Martinelli is more upside than Declan Rice. It's 7,300 for Declan Rice. Like Thomas Partey at 4,800 is kind of just you never know. He could get an assist, type of thing. And 4,800.
yeah. I'm fine with that take. I would say clearly Saka. Then I wouldn't really consider Havertz or Martinelli. So no other forwards. And then for cash, and then I think Odegaard and Rice are probably the same. I mean, they both play 90 minutes. And I say that because Rice is for sure. He will for sure split the sets this year. Take pretty much all those sets from the left side. In their last preseason game, they won 2-0. Rice had 2 assists from 2 corners, one to Saliba, one to Gabriel. I mean, those cross shots assisted will add up. And in certain game scripts, he's going to crush, but he's going to be frustrating like this all season. Probably see him get up to 8K, and it's going to be super annoying. But with Odegaard, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think he's fine if you want to get there, if you don't spend up at second forward. We see him take sets at the end of games. Sometimes it's not always Saka taking corners. Like Odegaard will take the free kicks from that side and even a couple corners and penalties if Saka isn't on the pitch, and sometimes a random penalty even if he is. But I think Saka is going to be the main penalty taker. So yeah, back to midfield. You have those Arsenal guys. I don't think either of them are musts. But I wouldn't fault anybody for getting up to Declan. I think he's right on the. I think he's borderline. Like I think he's pretty safe.
A lot of this depends if Trippier plays because.
Right.
I mean,
if Trippier plays, then you're not going to get there.
Right. But I mean, if you could play a cheap defender, then you could get to a more expensive midfielder if you want. I mean, also the same thing could be said with Elliot Anderson. Like if I see Elliot Anderson and I'll play him at 5,900. I mean, I think it may end up if he ends up as like a monopoly set piece taker for Nottingham Forest, like his price, he'll end up being 7,500, 8,000. He'll be in that Ward-Prowse, McNeil type of, not a great team, but he takes like all the stuff. So like you play him anyway, as long as they're not playing, top 4 team. So totally we don't have him projected in, but I'd feel much more comfortable playing Anderson if he's in than any of the guys if he's out. Like the thing is that I think if he's in, there's a great shot that he's taking at least half of them and a very good shot that he's taking all of them. But if he's out, it's like, who knows? It's a grab bag of like one of these guys, Alonga or Danilo, could end up, Nico Williams could end up taking a monopoly, or they could have 0. So you're in that like range of like what, like Danilo at least is 4,000. And if he takes no set pieces, okay, that isn't the end of the world. But if you're paying 6K, 7K for someone and they don't, like Gibbs White or something like that, I'm not, you need to know in that scenario. But I would view Elliot Anderson. I would rather play Elliot Anderson if he's in more than Miedema, more than Jack Harrison, more than Lindstrom if he's in.
Yeah, no, I don't need to oversell it. I'm in complete agreement. I think Anderson would be my first guy in. Yeah,
But out of these guys, would you in this range, would you consider the people that you're choosing from in cash, just to be clear? And I'm going to add some of your guys, even though I'm not considering them. Elliot Anderson at 5,900, Tavernier at 5,800, Minta at 5,600, Kluivert at 5,500, Lindstrom, if he's in, at 5,400, Miedema at 5,300, Harrison at 5,000, Cook at 4,900, and Partey at 4,800. I think that's like I wouldn't call you crazy for playing. And Ryan Christie at 4,500. Let's just add him. Like, I don't think you're nuts. And Small Bone at 4,500. You're not like, I'm not doing it, but you're not like nuts. Like, how would you rank like that range
for
of
cash?
all of those guys?
Yeah, that's tough. I would rank Anderson number one for what we just said, but it seems like he might not start, probably won't start. And then the other thing about Anderson is he wouldn't even be like massive chalk, because just you have enough people who are still going to play Gibbs White or like or even someone else. But yeah, on I think the Bournemouth guys are fine. I think people will play Tavernier, and that's fine. But I could see it being the other two guys who take the sets, Cook and Christie. Now,
I don't want to play Lewis Cook. I'm
right.
I'm with Lewis
they're
Cook.
the defensive midfielders, we were kind of talking about. But, Cook put up double-digit points pretty often last season in these type of spots. So I think that's fine. But I would probably rank Miedema ahead, just because I think Miedema is going to be popular, like you said, and he has more upside. So I'm fine going to Miedema. But yeah, I'd rank Anderson number one. And then after that, I'm going to go all the way down to, if Anderson doesn't start, just give me Danilo splitting the sets for 4K. All these guys are similar. Jack Harrison, I'm not going to do that, but I get it. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I think.
Is there anyone like really cheap? I mean, you got like someone like James Milner could be on half of Brighton set pieces for 60 minutes.
He could be. Yeah, we don't see him in there. Milner's not the worst play, but yeah, I'm not. It makes me nervous. 60 minutes. Right. Yeah. But no, other than that, I kind of stopped at Danilo, at least for cash.
Right.
You might have this Ryan Manning split sets when he starts at left back for Southampton. I'm not going to play Small Bone. What is Small Bone? Oh, he's 45. No chance with Small Bone for me, because, when we get to defender, this Sugawara was taking sets in the preseason for Southampton. And, they've got him priced up, in quotes, priced up for Southampton at 4,300. So yeah, no Small Bone. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have anyone to add?
One more guy, but you have to, he's the Chris Wood of midfielders, and that's Abdoulaye Doucouré. 3,800, playing basically as a like a secondary striker. He kind of plays behind the center forward. He doesn't do much other than take his one or two shots, and he either scores them or he doesn't. But he tends to play a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Also, yeah. I mean, sometimes it depends on the game script. But
I should have mentioned him. Adam probably wants to fire me for not mentioning him. That's
right.
Doucouré, one of Adam's all-time favorites. No, that's cheap enough. That's fine. He's
but his range of outcomes. Understand you're paying for like that type of range of outcomes of like he scores 2 or 3 or 28, right? Like he's someone that like at 3,800 could completely bail out your entire lineup. So like if you're trying, like I'd rather play Doucouré than Milner or Manning or like guys that have like plus God knows plus 1 million goal scoring odds. I'd rather I'll take my 3 points at worst. But if Doucouré gets on the score sheet, like he bails out my entire lineup.
Yeah, no, I agree. Some people might even play him over like a Danilo. Even I don't know. It's not the worst thing. Last guy I forgot to mention was a little expensive, but if Trippier doesn't start, we saw Jacob Murphy be the one to hop on the sets, even over Anthony Gordon sometimes, and he's pretty cheap compared to the other Newcastle attackers. Just a guy that we've seen smashing.
Play 90. It's just to me.
No, but he could. I mean, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go there in cash, but I mean, we see people show up with him in these spots. And if he has set pieces, it's I don't know, it's fine. I wouldn't do it in cash, but so yeah, on to defender. Trippier, news of the slate. If he starts, obviously you play him in cash. Maybe there is a case to fade in tournaments. It's annoying that he's not a little bit more expensive because I'd be all over the fade, but they made him pretty cheap. I think there's be a pretty good chance that he gets subbed for Livramento, who'd be the guy that starts if Trippier doesn't. But, I don't really like to bank on guys getting subbed. If Trippier's out there for 90 minutes in this spot, he's going to crush. I mean, he's the safest guy on the slate,
Right.
After that, it's Barco at 5,400. Yeah, he looked really good last year in playing towards the end of the season. Young kid they just signed. He's really attacking. You expect him to take most of the sets. But yeah, gets forward, has open play upside, just a great play.
Barco is essentially a Stupinan with set pieces.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, pretty much.
We were playing a Stupinan even in cash at 6K without set pieces. Right?
Yeah, maybe even like more attacking. No, I shouldn't say. I mean, Estupinian is attacking, but we saw Estupinian sort of play more defensive at times last season. But yeah, that's a good comparison. Some sub risk for Barco, definitely. So it's tough to call him a lock. If Trippier doesn't start, Lewis Hall will be splitting half the sets for Newcastle as their only left-footed player, just like he did last season.
I like Lewis. So I like Lewis Hall. I mean, how would you compare Lewis Hall at 6,100 to the 5K range midfielders? Like, I still put Elliot Anderson like above him, but if Anderson doesn't start, like, would you prioritize Miedema at 5,300 or Lewis Hall at 6,100? I'd rather play the Newcastle player.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. It's a pretty good spot. You figure he's going to play 90 minutes and split sets. I think I'd rather play him over like a Tavernier type for sure. So yeah, definitely in the conversation for cash. Going down a little bit, this guy I mentioned, Sugawara, if that's how you say his name, taking some sets in preseason. I forget where he played last year, but he seems okay. It's not a great spot on the road against Newcastle, but I say we don't even have him in our starting lineup. Who do Jack Stevens we have? Yeah, okay. I could see that too. So maybe he doesn't even start, but if he does, I don't know.
I'm not playing a Southampton fullback with them being huge underdogs.
Yeah, that's fair. They have guys on the bench too, Manning, to come in and play left back and take sets. So yeah, worth mentioning, but a lot of
I'm paying up or all the way down at defense, Ryan. I mean, obviously the Arsenal fullbacks are viable, but I think they're more GPP ceiling plays than cash floor type plays. I think the Nottingham Forest wingbacks are okay. Nico Williams always seems to get there no matter what. Even Lamptey is okay. I mean, these are just like if they were 1,000 cheaper, I'd consider them more, but like I'm not playing them in the place of like a Barco or a Trippier or a Hall. But then if I'm going all the way down and not playing a center back, it probably is going to be Kirkez at 3,200 because at least he's not Adam Smith. I mean, that's like the best. At least he goes forward. He's actually not that very good of a defender, but he does go forward. And the reason, because he's not a very good defender, that's a lot of times why he gets subbed out, because he's not a good defender. So if Bournemouth needs to score, he'll stay in. And if Bournemouth go up, he may come out. But at least at 3,200, it's not an underdog center back or anything like that. Other than that, I mean, you could obviously just play, at this point, anyone You could play a 3K center back for a favorite, right? You could play Lewis Dunk, or you're basically punting, right? At that point, it doesn't even matter. I mean, go down to the cheapest player and play whoever. At that point, I don't think I'm doing that on this slate, but I don't think Kirkez at 3,200 is like one of these cheap fullback priority is mispriced type of thing. He's like his price probably should be 3,900, right, or 4,000, right? So it's not like it's. I think Trippier is more underpriced than Kirkez is underpriced if Trippier plays 90 and starts. So don't go rush out and having to play Kirkez. I think that the decision on Kirkez may come down to, of all things, goalkeeper, and whether you pay up or pay down at goal. Like, do you want a 5K level guy, and play McCarthy or Sa, or do you want to play Kirkez and Raya or Pope or something like you're doing? I think that's more of the decision than Kirkez himself.
Right. I was going to say Kirkez should probably be priced at 4K too. So, I mean, that's kind of a discount, right? I mean, 20% discount or whatever. I like Kirkez for 3,200. You described him perfectly. He's got sub risk, but he's a good attacker. And then, Dunk is the center back I would have mentioned for 2,800. I don't think Kirkez is a must. If you needed to go to Dunk, that's fine. If you want to play an Arsenal center back, I think that's fine too. They probably project for more points than most people think, is what I would say, with the clean sheet odds being so high, and with actually, especially Gabriel, with the amount of crosses he gets his head to. But yeah, other than that, Arsenal guys for tournaments. You can take more chances if Trippier doesn't start, but if Trippier starts, it's pretty hard to not play him.
Right. If Trippier starts, Trippier Barco is my defender slots, and I'll get different else. I mean, even my GPP lineups are probably just be Trippier Barco.
Probably.
Right.
Probably. Yep. So on to keeper. Raya's got, pretty good clean sheet odds.
Pretty good. That's an understatement.
We don't see 53% or whatever that often. So I think it's fine to get up to Raya, or else probably going all the way down. Just playing Sa or McCarthy seems fine. But I think it also seems fine to play Steele for 4,700. I don't know, Jordan. It's keeper. What are you thinking? I guess
play whoever you want. I'm more likely to go way up or way down, either Raya or all the way down. I actually prefer McCarthy to Sa. I don't think Southampton is going to be that bad this season, and I don't necessarily think. I know people in chat are talking about Newcastle stacks. We'll transition this into GPP, but I think Southampton are a decent enough defensive team that I'll play one. Do I want to play Murphy? Like all these pricing, like Murphy, Joe Linton, Gumares, Longstaff is 5,500. It just Newcastle seems like overpriced to me, right? Especially if Trippier's in, right? Trippier is in there. I think a lot of these guys will be. I mean, I don't mind playing Isak as a one-off. Go out and score 3 goals and then whatever. But stacking Newcastle against Southampton, I'm much more interested in. I mean, I don't care if they're going to be chalky. I'd rather just play Arsenal at that point, because I think Arsenal could completely roll. I mean, this Wolves team without Kilman in at center back and without Neto, this Wolves team coming out of the gate, I mean, they could lose 6-0 tomorrow. I mean, that's well within the cards. I actually think Southampton could put up a fight, and maybe the game's 3-1. And I'd much rather play Arsenal at similar pricing, and I'd much rather play the Nottingham Forest Bournemouth game than the Everton Brighton game. So I know the Chris Wood in cash hot take. I don't mind stacking Nottingham Forest. I think playing like a Wood with one of Ina or Williams with Danilo and Delonga or something, or CHO. I just think Nottingham Forest is. I just don't think many people are going to play Nottingham Forest. I just don't think many people are going to play them because there's like a better guy at like all the price points and all the positions that in GPP on a 4-game slate, like Nico Williams is not going to be that owned. I mean, not 2%, but 10% owned. Like Chris Wood, maybe 20% owned. All the other forwards, maybe 10% or less, right? Like, I just feel like the Nottingham Forest Bournemouth game could be it's going to be a 4-3 game. This could be. And you could play cheap guys on the other side. You could play a Clivert. You could play a Christie. You could play Kirkez on the other. You could play cheap guys on the other side. Jebison, if he starts, like you can do that. So my GPP take is that Arsenal plus Nottingham Forest plus Bournemouth, and if you stack Nottingham Forest Bournemouth in some way, you could fit 3 Arsenal players. You could play Saka plus Ben White plus Martinelli. You could do like some type of lineup like they maybe not taking like Saka, Havertz, Martinelli. You probably can't get like that type of lineup. But you come close to it. You really could come close to that. So I don't know how you see the slate, but I view Everton Brighton as like the floor game of the slate. And I think these pieces are going to be over-owned, but I don't mind taking a shot on like a one-off Decore, a one-off Pedro, like one of those type of guys that could like be the only guy that puts up, 25 plus points. But I don't really feel like playing a Dwight McNeil, Harrison, Calvert-Lewin line with Miedema and Minta as and Barco or like I think you're fine. You cash that lineup, but do you win first? I'm not convinced of that.
Yeah, I feel pretty similarly across the board. Maybe unfortunately for the listeners.
You're not into stacking You're not into playing like a Gordon Isak lineup or a Murphy Gordon Hall lineup, or you're not into.
I would play 2 Newcastle. I think. I of course I like Isak. I feel the same about Isak as you. I think he'll probably be the second most popular forward on the slate would be my guess after Saka. I kind of think the Arsenal guys go a bit overlooked, just a bit. I don't think people are excited to pay 9,700 for Havertz. I really don't.
But how could you be that excited about paying 8K for Murphy? Like Morris, like these guys, all these guys can get there on their own, but like you play Jacob Murphy and then he comes off at 62 minutes with 12 points. I mean, he's still efficient, but I mean, he doesn't do anything. And then you play Isak and Newcastle scores 4 goals and it's a Gamara's goal, a Longstaff goal. Dan Burns scores on a header from Fabian Schär scores a free kick. It just feels like I look at Newcastle and I know Gordon and Isak are probably their best players alongside Trippier if he starts. I just feel like there's so many ways for them other people to score that I don't want to pay the same prices where like Arsenal, it's kind of clear. I mean, yeah, there's multiple ways for them to score, but I mean, I think it's primarily the goal scorers are Saka, Havertz, Martinelli, Odegaard. Like that if they're scoring a bunch of goals, like 2 of those guys are probably winning the GP. You could confidently play 2 of them. And then in Newcastle, you can't confidently play 2 of anyone on the you play Gordon Isak, and next thing you know, you're like, why do I only have 13 points combined when Newcastle scores 5 goals? Like that can happen. I don't think that could happen for Arsenal.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Might see Trossard start. He's pretty cheap, and I don't think would be like crazy popular. Ozzy's in the chat with the Zinchenko lock. I'm pretty worried about Zinchenko getting subbed for new signing Calafiori, and they bought Calafiori.
They wouldn't have signed him if they were confident in Zinchenko's playing time.
Well, yeah, they bought Calafiori to take Zinchenko's place. It was like beyond clear that Zinchenko can't be the left back when Arsenal are playing in big games or, against fast, tricky wingers or attackers. He just can't do it. But, if you somehow got 90 out of him, sure, he's a good play, and I don't think people are going to play him. But I also don't think we're going to see as many 90-minute games as we're used to on this first slate. I think, guys could get subbed. If you can find the 90-minute guys, they're probably a little bit better than usual, I feel like. I agree about the Forest Bournemouth game. Not even sure I have too much to add. I like Cho more than Gibbs White for tournaments just because I think there'd be.
Was that what we're calling him now? Cho, not CHO, just Cho?
Yeah, I don't know. You call him whatever you want. Hudson-Odoi. I just feel like Gibbs White will probably be twice as popular. I don't think either will be that popular just because they're expensive. But yeah, I like the cheaper guys. Pairing two of them with a Bournemouth guy. All the Bournemouth players are cheap, and I think they score as well. You don't have Solanke there, and the replacement for him is Unal, so they really don't have a center forward. Who's going to start there? Maybe we have Jebison, I guess. 4,700. He's fine for tournaments. I saw Semenyo just projected to start up top instead. I guess I should put the cheat sheet up there.
Well, the thing is that some of their guys are out. With David Brooks, Tyler Adams, or whatever. That's probably defensive.
One or two of these Bournemouth attackers are going to play 90 minutes probably.
Right. That's exactly the point that I was going to make. Maybe this is a Tavernier 90.
It
probably
might be.
Not a Kluivert 90.
Probably not.
Semenyo.
Yeah, last 90. Year you would Semenyo was the guy last year. You would kind of assume that again, the guy that plays longer. But yeah, no, I like that game for tournaments. And then I agree with you about Everton, Brighton. I do like a lot of those Brighton guys, though, just because they're cheap. But I don't think I'll stack that game. I like one-offs from that game. I don't know. I don't even think McNeil's the worst tournament play if you pair him with a Brighton guy. Even like 15 points sometimes can be optimal on a slate like this. He's cheaper than, the Arsenal and Newcastle guys. I don't know. Not much besides that. I'm not interested in playing Wolves at all. I agree with your take. Like they got worse. This game is going to be a huge struggle for them. I think it's a much better spot for Arsenal than it is for Newcastle. But I don't know. I'm not necessarily as excited about Southampton, but I get your point. It's a squad filled with Premier League players, decent defenders. Kyle Walker-Peters just defensively could play on a bigger, better club. He's good. But so, yeah, I don't know. Not much to add besides that.
There are going to be points in the season where we're playing, $3,800, $4,200 Southampton players.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Should mention those are I could go to those guys actually instead of Wolves. Like we have Edozie is 3,700 probably going to start. Guy's got some talent. I mean, he was on Man City for a while. People expected big things from him. They signed Ben Diaz, who no one's going to play, but probably taking pens for them would be my guess. I don't know. Well, it's tough to know because he just got there. But I mean, he's kind of I'd expect him to play the same role he played for Sheffield, sort of. So I don't know. If I was taking a shot on a dog for tournaments, it'd be Southampton over Wolves. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm still not doing it. Right? It's like
no,
if
I
were,
really
it would be Southampton, but I'm not.
I think Edozie is the guy I'd be most likely to play in a few lineups because you're just not really sacrificing much. You're playing him over Danilo and Decore and James Milner. So go for it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Anything else? Did we forget to mention anybody? I don't really think so.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, no one's going to play Bruno G. If you're on the Newcastle side and almost, he's too expensive. We see him come up with braces every so often. He's a bit of a Rodri type, great player. And then even like a Joe Linton, no one's going to play either. But we see the same thing from him. A few spots, a few times a season, he puts up 20 plus points. If you're looking for like true leverage in the main GPP, and you want like the lowest owned guys from the team that's going to score 3 or 4 goals. Also, 2 players that usually play 90 minutes. So can't be the worst thing. Even like a Longstaff, another guy we see show up with plenty of goals. So
but that's the problem, like I mentioned with Newcastle, is that I can see Newcastle scoring 4 goals in this game, and then no one gets there because, or whoever you pick, it's going to be the other person. It's like feel free to, you could make 50 Newcastle lineups and still miss, right?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, it could happen with Arsenal too, but it's not as likely.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks to Jordan. Good luck to everybody. Looking ahead to next week, we got Man City at home to Ipswich. So that's going to be unfortunate.
So 6 Man City players, and we find 2 other teams.
It's too far ahead, but I looked ahead 2 weeks too, and it's basically your wet dream, Jordan. One of the best slates I've ever seen for just no big teams, no standout spots.
5 crap teams, 5 crap games against each other.
Yeah, it's a 5-game slate, and there's like just no spot that like necessarily stands out on the surface. Anyways, that's 2 weeks away. We'll be in the Discord on Saturday for this slate. You know, there'll be some lineup surprises for sure. We'll see what happens with Trippier. Jack wrote an article, good article breaking down cash and GPPs. Check it out. But yeah, thanks, Jordan. Good luck, everybody. See you next week.